Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. Hey, you waited. You've been listening. We see you, Netherlands. Welcome back to another episode of the Average Bros Fantasy Football Podcast. My name's Michael.
I'm Tyler.
And I'm Anthony.
Good enthusiasm Anthony.
Right
Way to go.
My laptop has me salty.
We've been going over the rankings past two episodes. We're going to do that again. We did 1 through 10, episode 3, 11 through 20, episode 4, episode 4. Jesus Christ. And now we're going to go through 21 through 30. As always, follow us on the Average Bros Instagram, AverageBros_fantasyfootball.com. Everything else should be in a link down below. If it's not down below, then you know what? I'm muffing up. So, anyways. Okay, you want to just get right to it and start it off, Tyler?
Yeah, we could just jump right into it. So,
Down to nitty-gritty.
21, player ranked 21 is Mike Evans. So, for me, Mike Evans, I feel like it's a big bounce back year for him. Last year, a lot of people were drafting him. I think he was even going in the first round in a lot of leagues, right?
Yeah, he was a first-round pick last year.
Yeah, and a huge bust, yeah. So
I think he was like ADP 7, 107.
ADP 7, yeah. So, yeah, this year, I think he's going in the back end of the second round. I like Mike Evans. I mean, he's big body, 6'5", interesting numbers with him. And this is just all coincidental right here, but his receiving touchdowns. So he came in as a rookie, he had 12. The year after that, 3. The year after that, 12. Last year, 5. So this year, does he bounce back with 12 again? I mean, it's kind of like going up and down, up and down. I don't know. Those are things I just look at. But he's also had 1,000 yards every year he's been in the league. So, I mean, he's a lock for that. I think he can get double-digit touchdowns again. I mean, they just force-feed him the football, I feel like.
You really sold me on something when you were talking about with Fitzpatrick in the beginning. Just like the fact that he's like a gunslinging type of quarterback and how Mike Evans just makes plays. Like I feel like you're right. He'll probably just catch those throw-up balls,
Yeah, I mean, when Fitzpatrick was with the Jets, Brandon Marshall and Decker both had huge years. Because, Fitzpatrick, he's going to be there for the first 3 games while Jameis Winston's suspended. But, I mean, Fitz is one of those quarterbacks where he's literally he just chucks it and he's gonna let the receiver go make a play. And Mike Evans is 6'5". I mean, he can jump through the roof. Most DBs are barely 6 foot. So.
I mean, it's a small sample size, but I looked at the 4 games that Fitzpatrick started. Evans actually played in 3 of them. In those 3 games, week 6 he had 8 targets. Week 11 he had 10 targets. Week 12 he had 12 targets. So he saw at least 8 targets in each of those. And then if you look at Fitzpatrick's numbers in the 1 game Mike Evans didn't play, he only threw for 187 yards. In the 3 games that he did play, his yards per game jumped up to 275 plus. I think one was 295, the other one was like 280 something. So Mike Evans makes a difference for Fitzpatrick. So as a quarterback, when you're dropping back and you have that difference maker, I mean, why would you not throw to him?
Yeah, I like I said, you kind of sold me on Mike Evans, especially his ADP.
I think the worry with him is there's rising hype on Chris Godwin. You have Deshaun Jackson there. They still have Adam Humphries. But every year since he's been in the league, he's at least 120 targets. I don't think he's at 150-plus target receiver anymore because there are some weapons out of there. But last year he saw 136 in 15 games. You got to figure he would have saw at least another 4 in that Week 16 game or the game he missed. So he would have been 140-plus. I think he's a lock for around that 140 range. I think even on a down year you could see him at 128. And even when he had a 122 as a rookie, he still put up 68 and 1,000. So I actually love Jameis Winston this year. He suffered an AC joint injury last year, which led him to play 11 healthy games. If you take those 11 healthy games, he would have paced for over 5,000 yards passing. He's looked good in the preseason so far. I think he threw for over 200 yards in less than a half in week 2 of the preseason. And I mean, Mike Evans is his go-to. So if Jameis has any kind of breakout season and throws for anywhere from 4,500 when he's back to 5,000, and Fitzpatrick keeps the pace, he's gonna end up being a solid value for you right there at that turn in the early 3rd, late 2nd. As your wide receiver 1 that you're gonna get a solid 1,000 yards, double-digit touchdown potential, and 70 receptions.
Yeah, I love Mike Evans. Like I said, I think he's a bounce back season this year. I mean, he's never had over 100 catches, so he's not a huge PPR guy. But where he makes his bread and butter at, he's averaging like 15 yards a reception. And those years that he really broke out, he was getting those 12 touchdowns each year. So he's kind of a little bit like if he can get the touchdowns. I mean, even if he got like let's just say 8 or 9 touchdowns, it's still pretty good. An interesting stat that you looked up, Anthony, was I guess the pass attempts have gone up 3 years in a row. So they're turning more into a pass-happy team, So, I mean, if they're throwing the ball more, that means just more opportunities for him.
Yeah, I know over the last 5 games, I think Jameis Winston, 4 of those 5 games went for over 300 yards.
Yeah.
And like I said, he's looked good in the preseason. I know he won't be there for 4 weeks, but I think Fitzpatrick, and I think it's why you're getting him discounted too.
Yeah.
Fitzpatrick's going to come in, and, you saw the 3-game sample. We've mentioned that he's a gunslinger, and he targets one person heavily. So you're getting him at that discount for 4 weeks. And if, Fitzpatrick can keep his value up and, maybe he gets a touchdown or 2, and then Winston comes in and takes that, that leap, and then they stay pass heavy. I mean, this could be he could easily finish in the top 5 with that touchdown upside.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. You guys want to talk about Devonta Freeman?
Devonta Freeman.
And number 22.
Devonta Freeman's dead to me because I had him in a couple leagues last year, and he just did it.
Yeah, it's because his ADP was fucking high
It's
too
like
last year.
half the league is dead to Tyler.
Well, listen. I don't know, man.
He's running out of players.
Listen, his fantasy finishes. Okay, last year he finished as RB13, but he was getting drafted in the first round as your RB1. I mean, you're thinking at least top 10, right? But the year before that, he was RB6.
I took
Odell. The year
Odell.
before that, he was RB1.
I took Odell instead of Devonta Freeman last year, and I still wasn't mad about it.
Yeah. The thing with Devonta is I mean, I probably won't be drafting him just for his current spot right there. I mean, there's certain players I personally like in that in that tier, I guess, of running backs you would call it. But for him, his receptions and his targets have actually gone down for 3 years in a row now. So, I mean, that's not something I want to see in my running back. 3 years in a row, the targets and his receptions have been going down. I mean, that's just not. He's not trending in the right direction.
He did basically miss 3 games though last year. So if you add those 3 games in, he was at 36 receptions last year. You got to figure he gets it pushes over 40 receptions. If he plays those 3 games, so that was those numbers are a little bit skewed. He still had 196 carries in the ground and missing those 3 games. So figure add another 3 games, you're looking in that 220, 230 range, which is around his career norm. I see the Falcons offense taking a red zone efficiency step up this year. They were one of the worst as far as red zone efficiencies last year. You kind of know what you're getting with him. You're going to get, if he plays his full 16, you're going to get 40 plus receptions. You're going to get 220 plus carries. Is he going to be this massive workload, the number 1 running back he was years ago? No. But I mean, if he's my RB2 and if I get one of those early running backs and I come back in the middle of the third and I just don't like the receivers there, I'm fine taking him as my RB2 because I know I'm going to get 40 plus receptions, 220 plus carries on the ground. It's just he's a safe and he's a red zone machine. I mean, he's been double digit touchdowns in the past, 7 last year. Like I said, and they were bad in the red zone last year, the Falcons, and I see them taking a step forward in that aspect. If he's there, I'm not taking him in the late second, but his ADP is starting to kind of skew him towards that 3rd round. Like I said, if I get an early running back, and then I like a receiver and he's there at the early to mid 3rd rounds, I know I'm getting that solid RB2 right there. So that's where I don't mind taking Devonta. He's 40 plus receptions. He's pretty safe. You know what you're getting at that point.
Safe floor is what you're saying. Yeah.
Instead, you could take someone like a little bit of a gamble like a McKinnon or Mixon, who they have some upside, but there's no guarantee that they reach their upside.
What do you think, Mike?
Let me ask you guys, what do you think, Devonta Freeman? Would you rather have Jerick McKinnon or Devonta Freeman?
Devonta.
Yeah, I would.
Neither.
Yeah, I mean, I know we're about to talk about Jerick McKinnon, but I was just curious.
I mean, I agree with everything Anthony just said here. A floor, you kind of know what you're gonna get. Maybe and that's the thing with fantasy sometimes. You'll draft a player and they don't live up to the expectations that you put on them. So they kind of leaves a salty taste in their mouth. So the next year you're going to draft them. Maybe you don't want them. That's not necessarily the right strategy. But Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. If
But
I'm
is salty taste in your mouth? Is that bad? I love peanuts. Peanuts are salty, so maybe
But
you
is
want.
he pizza with salt? Because then he'd be delicious.
Yeah, sometimes you gotta salt the snail.
Devonta could
And
be that
Devonta
pizza with
Freeman
salt.
is that snail. You gotta salt them sometimes.
I mean, like you're saying, they did give him the ball a ton. When they were inside the 5-yard line, Devonta Freeman had 14 carries, and that was the third most attempts inside the 5-yard line. So,
I mean, if you're not this range where you start reaching these players, it's this is the area where it starts getting the landscape starts falling apart a little bit. Those first 2 rounds, the receivers are all safe for the most part. The running backs are safe, but when you start hitting this territory, where Devontae's going, you do start looking at like the Jerick McKinnon, Joe Mixon. Let's see who the next running back is here. Jordan Howard. These roles are, we're kind of predicting more of what the roles are versus we actually know what the roles are. Even the receivers there. You have Ty. Is Luck 100%? Like he looks better, but do we know if he's 100%? Adam Thielen, is he going to see 140 targets again? You don't know. Fitz, is he going to hit that that age barrier wall? There's just question marks there. Doug Baldwin's not 100%. There's question marks there. So if I'm not opposed taking him to that 3rd round to where you just know, I'm not going to necessarily miss with this unless he gets injured. If you're one of those people who are like a risk adverse, like I don't want to take a chance and take a guy and my 3rd round pick is a bust right here. I think Devonta Freeman's a perfect guy in this situation to, you're going to get that, they're going to be a top 10 offense. You're going to get 220 carries. You're going to get 40 catches, goal line work. You're just locked and loaded and knowing what you're getting. I'm more of I shoot to win the league. I shoot to score the most points. So I might not take him. I'll take probably like a Joe Mixon or one of those receivers because I'm trying to shoot for upside. But if you just want to be safe, I feel like he's one of the safer running back picks in that territory.
Hey, couldn't have said it better myself. Okay, let's go. Let's move on to Jerick McKinnon in San Francisco. No longer a Viking.
So I like McKinnon's talent, but his value and his ADP I think is too high.
I think I'm just not sold on him. I could see him maybe being a flex play, but I couldn't imagine actually having him as like a running back 1 or running back 2.
Yeah, like Anthony was saying, there's just too many question marks with him right there. I mean, like Devonta Freeman would be safer. I mean, me personally, in that tier of running backs that's going right there, I really like Jordan Howard. I think he's gonna get a ton of work. We'll talk about him a little bit later. But yeah, McKinnon, I don't know. He's already a little banged up. He's not gonna play until week 1, they said. So, I mean, he's coming in maybe a little rusty. I mean, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how I feel about this.
Yeah, I think there's the upside narrative of, Carlos Hyde caught 60 balls last year, and he's nowhere near the athlete or receiver that Jerick McKinnon is. So there's a narrative of, is Jerick McKinnon going to see 80-plus, receptions? Is he going to be a Christian McCaffrey? And that's where I think his ADP is high because of these experts, Then you have Jimmy G, who's like Jimmy Jesus or whatever people are calling him nowadays. And then Shanahan has always produced good running backs. So there's, definitely that narrative to where, people were spinning that upside. And, I see the potential for it. And then there was the questions if you look at his downside, is he going to be capable of holding up a big workload? He's never had a big workload in his history. And, I mean, he's already been banged up in the preseason. So, I'm just not sold on his running back abilities. He's been beaten out by like Toby Gerhart, Latavius Murray. There's another
Matt
Asiata. Just basically anyone who's been able to carry the ball has beaten him out as a runner. So when I see that from a franchise and they're willing to let him go, it basically says, hey, we don't think this guy can get it done between the tackles.
Yeah.
So now you're basically relying on the pass catching ability. And Jimmy G, over his I think 4 or 5 starts, he didn't actually target the running back position a lot. So now you're relying on Shanahan's system to force feed that. The injuries, I don't think he's going to be an efficient runner. I mean, Burrito has shown some flashes. There's Williams. I forget which Williams there. There's so many Jay Williams in the league as running backs. I'm just not buying into this. I don't want to risk it right there in the early 3rd round. I said I'd rather take Devonta Freeman over him. You've mentioned Jordan Howard, Christian McCaffrey's in that range. I'd rather take him. I'd rather take all these guys over McKinnon. I think he's one of those early 3rd round guys who has, bust potential. He's one of those. I feel like he's this year's possibly his free agent money splash, where he's going to get this, that. A team goes out and spends the money, and then it just doesn't correlate over to, production on the field. I could be wrong, but this is just the way I personally.
Well, so his consistency rating was he only finished as an RB1 25% of the games last year. And then on the flip side, he finished as an RB3 or worse 68% of the times. So I mean, he's two boomer bust. You know, I mean, he was having some games where I think he came out onto the scene. He had like 2 20-point games back to back. But then and you're thinking like, oh, I got a stud off the waiver wire. I got to start him every week. But then he also had a couple games where he was getting like 5 points. And then all of a sudden he had like another 20-point game, and then like 5 points. So I think he's too inconsistent. The only thing that I would say would help him maybe is the opportunities there, because Carlos Hyde did have, 299 total touches, so he's gone. So that's a huge amount of workload that needs to be replaced. But
how much when like the last 5 games when Jimmy G was playing, what was their running game like last year? San Francisco's.
I'm not 100% sure on that. Yeah.
Yeah, because you know what I mean. That might be something interesting. To
I know
look
the
into.
Targets did drop for the running back position. I think Carlos Hyde saw about 80% of his targets when before Jimmy G came in.
Right.
But yeah, there is a lot of touches vacated, and that's where. And then Shanahan's offense has always produced running back production. So that's where people are getting excited about the upside of him, and I see that upside there. There's definitely a potential and a way where it plays out. Me personally, I just see running backs that have a little bit more of a safety for higher upside too, and I don't even think he's necessarily going to be the goal line back.
No,
when you're really inefficient as a runner and you're not an oversized guy, I don't see him.
They got 3 running backs they could put in the goal line.
Yeah, I don't see him being the goal line back. So I'd rather take the for sure goal line backs right there, where Jordan Howard's going to be the for sure goal line back. Joe Mixon had 85% I think of the red zone work, which was 3rd highest in the league last year. McCaffrey is even looking like he might be the goal line back, the way the preseason started off so far. And he's going to catch the ball. So, the running backs he's going around, I'd rather touch the other guys there.
He's not really good with touchdown upside, actually. So I was looking at some of the numbers, and he's gotten 200 touches the last 2 years in Minnesota, and he scored 5 touchdowns one year and then 4 the other. So that averages out to 1 touchdown every 40 touches, and 1 touchdown every 50 touches. So I mean, you're looking at like 1 touchdown a game every 2 games, maybe. So like
he gets 200 touches, it's about 4.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, his touchdown upside is not very big, and like you said, if he's not even going to get in the goal line carries, the Niners just signed Alfred Morris, which I kind of low key think's a sneaky play. I mean, Alfred Morris played for Shanahan before, so Matt Breida is banged up with his shoulder. I feel like the opportunity is kind of there for Alfred Morris to step in and maybe, he could even be a sleeper,
Even just vulture the goal line work.
And that would line work.
You're taking a 3rd round pick. You want that double-digit touchdown upside potential, and I don't see that double-digit touchdown upside. And now if you have anyone taking the goal line work, I think it's going to be extremely, he'd have to probably break off 4 or 5 screen passes to the house to make that double-digit upside.
Yeah.
You want to move on?
Yeah, we can move on. Move on to T.Y. So T.Y., another guy I think is going to have a huge bounce back year because Andrew Luck supposedly is back. I mean, all the reports out of Colts camp is that Andrew Luck's back. I mean, he's looking really good, and all the reporters are saying that he's just him and T.Y. It looks like they haven't missed a beat. He's just targeting T.Y. like nonstop. I mean, T.Y.'s just 1 or 2 years removed from being the league leading in receiving yards. So I think he's gonna have a huge bounce back year. I mean, I think Luck is gonna come back and have a good bounce back year as well. The Colts defense isn't very good, so I feel like they're going to have to throw the ball a ton to stay in some games. They also really don't have a solid running game either. So, I mean, if you're going to be the number 1 receiver for Andrew Luck, I'm all about that. I just wouldn't assume T.Y. to be like a wide receiver 1. So, but, I mean, if I can get T.Y. as my wide receiver 2, I'm pretty hyped about that.
Yeah, I think the thing with T.Y. is he's not a huge touchdown guy. He hasn't scored over 7 touchdowns in his career. But like you said, he's tied to Andrew Luck. In 2016 he went for 91 and 100 and over 1,400 yards when he led the league, and 6 touchdowns in that season. He's a big play guy. He makes big plays. So you could see those touchdowns shoot up to the 8 range if he makes a couple long bombs that go for touchdowns. He saw 100. This is his targets when Andrew Luck was there: 139, 131, 134, 155. Last year, 109 targets, and he's still. I mean, I know some production came in like 2 or 3 games, but he still managed with Jacoby Brissett, 57 and 966. One of the things I look for in preseason is I'm watching where the eyes of the quarterback are going, where they're looking, who they're looking at, and When I watched Luck in the first week, his head was just where's Ty basically. There was other receivers and tight ends and backs in the field, but he was literally just where's Ty. I think he might have targeted him 5 times in the limited snaps they played. And that chemistry is there with them. And I don't believe they have a receiver that was there back when Luck was playing. Moncrief's gone. I forgot who else they had as a wide receiver.
They have no one there.
Yeah, so his chemistry
is Ryan Grant, who I'm not worried about.
Yeah, his chemistry with is literally with T.Y. Hilton. And then Jack Doyle, he has some chemistry with too, but that's a tight end position. So I just, I see that chemistry already. He has, not the massive top 10 upside, but, could he be 80 catches, 1,300 yards, and 6? And, that's a value if you're getting that in the middle of the third. Even as your wide, I don't love him as my wide receiver 1, but if I get 2 stud running backs and T.Y. as my wide receiver 1, I don't hate it. I'm going to get those big yardage games. I'm going to get those 7 for 145 and, maybe a touchdown. Or even if I don't get a touchdown of that, I'm still happy with that. So yeah, I like T.Y. Hilton. I think he's, you're getting him at a little bit of, he was a first-round pick, I think, 2 years ago. Or end of the first, maybe beginning of second, And you're getting him, in the third, and he can still perform as a second-round value, maybe even a first-round value if, 1 or 2 receivers gets hurt and, his receptions shoot up to 90+ again. So I think he's a nice value in the third round.
I mean, I just look at it this way: if Luck comes back, and he can throw for 4,000+ yards, I think I had the stats here somewhere. He's thrown for 4,200+ yards in 4 of his last 5 years. If you're gonna tell me he's not throwing for 4,200 yards, it's not unrealistic to think that Ty can get at least 1,000, minimum 1,000. So I think his floor is 1,000, but like you're saying, like 1,100 yards, huge possibility. I think too.
We could even actually see the reception shoot up because he's been a big play receiver. He averages, 16 to 15 yards per catch. And if Luck's arm strength isn't what it was, prior to injury, he might be a little bit more intermediate. He might be more some timing routes, some quick routes. And if that's the case, you could see the reception shoot up to, 90+. Maybe he touches 100 for the first time. That's something I'm kind of like curious to see in week 3 of preseason. Is he going to start moving the ball deep? Because I feel like Lux is a good quarterback. He's mobile. He's still going to make throws. But if he's not throwing all these, bombs, I think he's going to move it maybe a little bit more intermediate. And that's going to lead to more receptions for T.Y., especially because he's going to be the heavy target volume guy.
Yeah, I'm up with T.Y.
You fuck with Ty?
Hey, guys.
Ty Dollar?
I'll take T.Y. When he coming in or later rounds, you know what I'm saying? I'll take T.Y. Sorry, you guys bring the stats, but I'm just going to confirm it. You know what I'm saying?
You just bring the fire, bro.
Bro, you know what I bring to the table?
Everything.
Not much, but you know what? I got class.
Just another interesting stat. We've kind of touched on this with some of the players, and some we haven't, but they have the 6th easiest schedule going into the year. So that obviously changes, because those rankings are based on last year. Teams change and whatnot. But for me personally, I try to look for players who they have an easier schedule going forward. Even if it doesn't stay the 6th easiest, I like to think that it'll at least stay in the top half easiest. Compared to like what other players I don't want to necessarily, if I'm deciding between player A or player B and I'm not sure who to take, like if player A has like the 4th easiest schedule and then player B has like the 28th easiest schedule, like I'm going to go with the player who has the 4th easiest schedule. I just feel like that could be like a deciding factor for some people right there. So passing, Luck has got the 6th easiest schedule. So, he should throw for 4,200+ yards, probably even more, it's a passing league now. They got no defense. I think.
And T.Y. Sorry, go. T.Y. generally lines up in the slot a decent amount. So that kind of makes him borderline, I don't like to say matchup proof, but I say cornerback proof instead. Because, he's not necessarily going to be locked up against an outside number 1 corner. He's going to move into the slot. He's going to move into different positions. So even when he sees the games where, Jalen Ramsey's supposed to be on the outside and he's going to move into the inside, or if they have a tougher cornerback matchup, T.Y. plays the slot. So that generally keeps him, he might be on Ramsey for 10 snaps in a row. I'm using them because they play the Jaguars twice. And then 2 plays after that, he's going to be in the slot. Luck's going to most likely target him, and those 2, he's going to see a matchup and say, hey, I have T.Y. in the slot with no Ramsey, and he'll still target him. So the fact that he lines up in the slot a lot, with Luck coming back, I feel like that'll limit some of the boomer bust games that you saw last year.
Yeah, I'm off with them, like I said.
All right, moving on. So number 25 overall, Adam Thielen Thielen jumped up crazy because I think I got him in like the 10th or 11th round last year, and now he's
people love
25.
him.
He's actually ranked ahead of Diggs, which I think is kind of ridiculous. But I mean, I don't have much to say. I mean, I feel like Thielen and Diggs are almost like 1A, 1B, so I don't necessarily know if I'm going to touch Thielen, honestly.
For me, it comes down to those two. It's I like Diggs better. Just some people like Thielen better. Some people like, can Diggs stay healthy for a season, which he hasn't done yet. Thielen's done it. He stayed healthy. I think he actually got banged up a little bit last year, but he's done it before. He's done it. He's had the 140-yard target season. He's put up some numbers. Diggs has kind of been banged up and showed more of the flashes, is what it's come down to for people. It is a little bit of a guessing because we don't know if Kirk Cousins is going to favor Thielen or if he's going to favor Diggs or if he's actually going to maybe even pass to the tight ends and running backs more. And both these guys dropped down a little bit. We don't know yet. He's last year both of them were playing in the slot. Both of them were playing outside. The reason I personally like Diggs over Thielen is just the touchdown upside. Diggs has showed the potential to be a red zone monster, where Thielen was actually inefficient in the red zone. He was very efficient over the first 10 to 12 games. I think he was pretty much a lock for 5 and 50 every week. There's Kirk Cousins coming in, a good defense. Kirk Cousins is supposed to be more efficient than Case Keenum is. We don't know. You got to figure he's going to be a bet for 100. I think both these receivers are a bet for 100 targets. Now it's just almost the guessing game of who's going to be the one to shoot towards 130, 120, 140, and who's going to be the one to sit in the 100 and 110 range. And this is something where it comes down to your opinion. If you like Thielen, take Thielen. If you like Diggs, take Diggs. I personally like Diggs, and Diggs is the lower of the two, so I'm going to go with the lower of the two when it comes to I'm basically tossing a coin and trying to figure out who's going to be the number one go-to. Because they can either one of those could be Kirk Cousins, the number one guy.
Yeah, last year I felt like they were all pretty much the same player, and everyone was drafting Diggs, I don't know, 4th, 5th round or whatever, but Thielen was falling to like the 10th, 11th, 12th round. So I was waiting, and I grabbed Thielen instead of grabbing Diggs early because I felt like they would have the same productivity, and that worked out really well. But an interesting stat that you looked up, Anthony, was Kirk Cousins has never targeted a receiver over 111 times. So are you a little worried about that?
No, because he's never had a true he hasn't had the outside talents that he has in Diggs and Thielen. This is his two best receivers. I mean, he's dealt with like Deshaun Jackson's not a high volume target guy. Pierre Garçon, they were kind of splitting the load there. But then in those years, Jordan Reed was healthy and he had a heavy tight end target. So that's what I was saying too. But actually, yes and no. He could skew towards Rudolph a lot of targets and Dalvin Cook in the running game out of the backfield. I think both these guys for in the third round carry upside, but they do carry a little bit of risk. That potentially they both see. One of them, one of them could see only 100 targets and not be truly efficient with those. So they're the receivers where it's kind of on what you believe at this point.
Yeah,
that's the way I like to put it. Like if you believe Thielen's a monster, Diggs sucks, then take Thielen. If you believe Diggs is the next big receiver in Minnesota, then take Diggs. Because I think anyone who tells you they know the situation is going to be lying to you. And if anyone tells you take Thielen or take Diggs because they're an expert, then they're full of shit. Because it's a guessing game at this point, realistically.
Yeah, it really is.
I really think it's just because Kirk Cousins is over there that there's so much hype and why Thielen's gone up. But it is weird that it's like, why Thielen? I don't know. Maybe because they like him because he's white or something.
Oh my god!
I'm just kidding.
It's just for the tier of receivers he's in. It's like Mike Evans, T.Y., Thielen, Fitz, Diggs. Like I would probably rank Thielen last out of all of those. You know what I'm saying? Like I mean, if those receivers are if I'm going to go receiver in that round, I mean, and those are the receivers that are there. I mean, he's going to be the last one I choose out of all those receivers. So I don't know. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. So I think his ceiling is basically what we saw out of him last year.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I don't think his ceiling's higher than that, and that was what wide receiver. Do you have targets on hand?
No.
140. I believe he finished like wide receiver 8 or 9, and so I believe that's his ceiling. And you're only drafting him at was he wide receiver?
Diggs was also hurt last year too.
Yeah.
I don't think people understand that he played a lot of the season, not 100%. So
he was a wide receiver. He's the wide receiver 11 right now. So you're basically drafting him just a niche behind his ceiling. So If he drops into 110 targets, you're not going to get the same value you're actually drafting him at him. You're actually losing some of your equity built into where you draft Thielen. Diggs is the wide receiver 13. We'll touch on him later, but we'll stay on Thielen. I think his upside is, almost where you're drafting him. And it literally might be where you're drafting him right there. I don't think he can get into the top 5.
Yeah, it's almost like you're drafting him at like he has to perform all like at his optimum level, in order for you to get full return on that pick right there.
Yeah, not worth it.
All right, so let's move on. So we're going to 26. Larry Fitz, the living legend, Larry Fitz. I love Larry Fitz. I mean, last year you had a panic pick in the second round for Larry Fitz.
That was bad.
In the marquee league that you're not in anymore, but
yeah, dude, what the fuck, man? Can we talk about that for a second? This motherfucker, I'm at work slinging bottles as I do. What do? I say, oh, it's a little slower. I'm going to go look at my phone. Shouldn't be looking at my phone. Did it anyways. Go look at my Instagram story. Oh, look, the Marquee Fantasy Football League that I'm in every year. Oh, look, the draft order. They picked the draft order. I wonder where I'm at. Look down the list.
13th.
Where? Oh, yeah. 13th. Yeah, I was the 13th.
Out of 12 teams.
Out of 12, dude. Oh, my
sorry,
God.
Mike.
Hey, dude. I understand. It's not like you set up the league. But you did. You did set up the fucking league.
You said you didn't. You were in too many leagues.
Dude, this guy. Bro, you added Alex. Alex, dude. This kid fucking doesn't even. He didn't even pay you.
You're making some solid points here.
I just want you to feel bad about it until you do something.
Terrible.
See how I can't even look at you because I feel confrontational right now.
I feel terrible though.
Yeah, you should a little bit though. You know what I mean?
You should just unplug his mic.
I'll buy you some canes.
Yeah, honestly, I unplugged your mic fucking 5 minutes ago.
Fuck.
Nobody can even hear you. Defend yourself.
You just
fuck.
I'm just kidding. Okay, let's go back into Larry Fitzgerald. Okay, but for real, add me back. You know what I'm saying? Add me in the league.
Yeah.
Put me in there. Before I fucking
all right, Larry
kill
Fitz. You. Okay, so Larry Fitz, everyone knows Larry Fitz. He's a future first ballot Hall of Famer. But people are starting to think like, oh, Larry Fitz, he's losing it. Like, he's getting slower, blah, blah, blah. So they ended up moving Larry Fitz into the slot, and his wide receiver finishes since moving into the slot. Wide receiver 5, wide receiver 12, and wide receiver 9. I don't understand this. This is a receiver that's getting 145-plus targets, 105 receptions, and over 1,000 yards in the last 3 years, and he's going in like the 4th round. It just doesn't make sense. Like you're saying, like
he's just consistent, man.
Like Thielen, is ranked higher than him, and I mean Thielen has to compete with Rudolph and Diggs. I mean even Dalvin Cook. Larry Fitz has to compete with David Johnson and
David Johnson.
David Johnson. That's it. It's
and David Johnson.
It's like unrealistic to think that he can't repeat all those numbers I just said right there. 145 targets, 105 receptions, 1,000+ yards. I mean,
okay, let me ask you something then. Where are you? Okay, so what's his ADP at really quick?
Well, right now, my thing. Do you have a tab for the average draft position calculator?
No, but I can pull it up. But
in a lot of mock drafts that I've been doing, he's been going in like the 4th round.
He's like 4th, 5th round. He's a wide receiver 12 based off consensus rankings. And I think it's because most experts understand that Fitzgerald is a value. He's going to see the target volume, and I think that's something where it's we've touched on volume before and target volume. When you understand target volume, and then someone's going to get a certain amount of receptions thrown their way, it's basically chances. I could be a receiver in the league, and if I'm going to see 150 targets, going against NFL corners, I'm going to still catch 40, 50 balls just because it's based off the target. But you have Fitzgerald, who's going to see 140 plus, 160. And when you have that much volume, it just dictates to chances to make plays, chances to catch balls, chances to, make yards after the catch. And, like Tyler just said, there's basically no one there, besides him and David Johnson. Of Christian Kirk, who's looked nice in the preseason as a developing rookie. Of J.J. Nelson, who, makes splash plays. But that offense is going to be ran through Fitzgerald and David Johnson. And last year, who was the quarterback last year, Mike? For Drew Stanton?
Carson Palmer, right?
for a
Or did
few
he get
games.
hurt?
But then he got hurt, and then he came in.
Sam Bradford now, right?
Yeah.
How did Sam Bradford throw the slot in Minnesota?
Something with Sam Bradford is if he could just fucking stay upright and stay healthy, but his completion percentage has gone up for the last 5 years he's been in the league. His completion percentage has gotten better 5 years in a row.
Is it just me, or does Sam Bradford look so like I think it's just because he
it's
doesn't.
the sleeves.
Yeah, dude, his sleeves. He looks like a little boy when he's playing. You tuck your
like
fucking.
the
Hey,
backyard
Sam
football.
Bradford, tuck your fucking sleeves in, you idiot. You look so silly, dude.
He's like a backyard football character
Yeah,
with the
fuck.
old school helmet on and the long sleeves.
Yeah,
too
what
big.
the fuck? You're gonna put on a leather
His mom's
helmet
like,
too,
"Go out
you
there."
idiot. His mom spanks
Good game,
him
Sammy.
on the butt. For real, dude. I don't know. Sorry, but
no
tangent. But fuck.
But
dude.
yeah, so Sam Bradford's completion percentage has gone up five years in a row, so that's good. Also, something for the Cardinals is they have a new offensive coordinator. It's Mike McCoy, and he was the head coach for the Chargers for 4 years. And in Mike McCoy's 4 seasons with the Chargers, the team ranked top 10 or better in total passing yards. So I mean, they're going to be a passing team, you know, and you got a top 10 passing team. You got a quarterback with, you know, top of the league completion percentage, and Larry Fitz has no one to compete with for targets. I mean, and you're getting him in the 4th round. It's like a steal, you know, value town. We'll talk about that value
town.
Yeah, I mean, even if he hypothetically loses a step, which is say he gets a little bit slower and he doesn't catch 110 balls, you know, he's still going to see 140, 150 targets. Even if he goes down to 130 and someone emerges or, you know, whatnot, getting him in the 4th or 5th round, I'd almost say it'd be, barring injury, impossible for him to get under 80 catches.
Yeah.
You know, based off his target volume and just he's a big sized dude. He knows how to use his body against, you know, he's been in the league for over 10 years. And in the slot, you know, he can be more efficient as a receiver, like Tyler mentioned once he moved to the slot. And Sammy Bradford, I keep calling him Sammy now. Could go right there, Sammy. You know, he's been highly accurate as a quarterback. He was a top 5 pick, I think, maybe even number 1 overall. And he actually broke the accuracy record for like percentage 2 years ago, and then Drew Brees came back and broke it, and he was like, "Give me that." So I mean, if Sam Bradford's anywhere in the 65 to 70 completion percentage range, and you know, Larry Fitzgerald sees 150 targets, you do the math. It's a lot. It's a lot
of catches.
It's 100 plus again. And he actually probably is getting a quarterback upgrade from, you know, Drew Stanton and maybe even Carson Palmer last year. I think at this point in the career of Sam Bradford, he, you know, might be an upgrade. And then his ADP, I'm looking it up. So
It's round 4, pick 10.
47.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
round 4,
That's
pick
far.
10.
That's dude.
I mean, he's just safe.
Deep.
You're looking at if you draft Larry Fitz to be your wide receiver too, like you're golden. You know.
I mean, dude, last year, like you were about to say earlier, is I accidentally picked him in the 2nd round, panic picked. I got snaked, and I thought I was like, dude, I just fucked up. I just lost. I ended up being the highest scorer in that league.
Yeah, he finished as the wide receiver 5.
Yeah, I mean, dude, yeah, I had him and Tyreek Hill, and I just plugged him in every week.
Yeah, but that's why. See, you
like,
did so good. That's why I didn't want you in the league again.
Yeah, you're afraid.
Yeah, I mean 410. I mean if you can get. Sorry, I'm looking at the.
No, you're
I use my
good.
phone because my laptop's down.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can already have your 1 in the receiver, maybe even you can even maybe look. Some people might just be like, oh, Larry Fitz is old. I'm not touching him. You could have 2 solid running backs, 2 solid receivers, and Larry Fitz could potentially be your flex right there at the turn point.
That sounds crazy.
I mean, he's gonna probably finish in the top 12 again.
Let me tell you something.
Just
Let me
based
tell
off
you
his
something.
Receptions.
That gets my PP hard. Fucking Larry Fitzgerald in the flex position, dude.
Larry Fitzgerald.
Larry Fitzgerald.
All
Hell
right,
yeah.
So we all agree. Fitz, great value.
Yo.
Going in the 4th round. Draft him.
Yeah, put him on your fucking team, you idiot.
And you can kind of use his. He's one of those players where you can kind of use the knowledge of knowing that people are going to be off him because he's older and they're like, you know, oh, it's the Cardinals. They have Sam Bradford. You know, there's a conception that he sucks as a quarterback and whatnot. So you don't have to necessarily take him in the 3rd, you know, early 3rd, you know, mid-3rd where he's ranked. You could almost kind of wait till that 4th round knowing that he's 80 to 90% chance he's going to fall there and get someone else in that 3rd round. And, you know, like he might be your favorite player in that 3rd round, but you can almost wait another round, take someone else, and still get Larry Fitz where you would have liked him right there and where his value actually is. Okay.
All right, okay.
Mr. Travis
Number
Kelce.
27,
Mr. Kelce.
Travis Kelce.
Mr. Kelce.
Mr. Kathy.
Mr. Throw his napkin in the air. What he threw his fucking towel. Remember that last year? Was that last year? When he threw his towel at the ref? Not his napkin. Yeah, well, I said his napkin, but I meant. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Sure.
All right.
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
You don't?
So Travis Kelce, I mean, top 3 tight end over the last, I believe, 3 years, right?
Yeah, he's been.
I'm looking up his numbers. Sorry if I'm slow on the numbers today, guys. My laptop's down. I mean, he was he number 1 last year over Gronk in PPR?
For what?
No.
Finishes?
Oh, I'm not 100% sure on that either.
I mean, Travis Kelce, he's one of the few tight ends you can get where, he goes for the 100-yard games. He last year, 83 receptions for 1,038 and 8 touchdowns. The year before, 85 receptions, 1,125 for 4 touchdowns. So last year, the touchdowns jumped up a little bit. Since his sophomore season, he's had at least 67 receptions. The last 3 years, over 100 targets. There is a little bit of a changing of the quarterback position. And that raises, whenever you have a new quarterback or new coordinator come in, there actually is a new coordinator, but Andy Reid's basically the one who calls the plays there. There's always a chance of some type of, turnover happening. The targets go directed another way or they go this way. But, I mean, Travis Kelce is one of the focal points of that offense. And you can't just gear towards him because you have Tyreek Hill on the outside. Have a Sammy Watkins on the outside to help out. And you still have the running game to worry about. So he's got to figure you're getting that tight end who's over 100 targets. He's going to probably get you 70 catches. If you want to get a tight end and have one of those big 3 tight ends, I feel like he's a safe tight end to have. And if you don't just want to lock and load every week with big week potential, I'm not against taking Kelce in the late 3rd, early 4th. If you're in a 10-team league, the 4th round might be a nice round to target him because in 10-team leagues you want that positional difference, and he's like a difference maker at the tight end. Because in the 10-team leagues, everyone's kind of stacked.
Do you get? The only thing for Travis Kelce for me is just like Pat Mahomes. I just don't know how he's like. I feel like he still really hasn't debuted in the NFL, really, right?
Yeah, and he's not.
It's hard. It's just like I don't know. I'm not going to draft him the same way I did last year or the year before.
Well, you knew that like with Kelce, you knew Alex Smith, like that was his boy. Like Alex Smith loves throwing it to the tight end. Even when Alex Smith was in San Francisco, he would throw to Vernon Davis all the time. So I mean, what's Mahomes going to be? Mahomes is a gunslinger. He's got a big arm. I mean, that could be a reason why they went out and they signed Sammy Watkins. To have 2 speed guys with Tyreek and Sammy Watkins. For me personally, kind of how Anthony said before, it's like Gronk or Bonk. If I'm not going to get Gronk early, then I'm probably just going to wait on tight ends because I feel like the value for where Kelce's going, there's just too many better. I'd rather take a Larry Fitz we just talked about right there. I mean, you got like a Joe Mixon, Jordan Howard, Amari Cooper coming up.
Yeah, just like a potential upside
just
player.
For his value of where he's getting drafted at, I don't necessarily want him. I mean, like I said, that last year or even for the last couple of years, I mean, they've never really had a stud wide receiver. They had Tyreek Hill. He only had 105 targets last year, though. But, I mean, now you got Sammy Watkins, who's you would think is going to demand maybe another 100 targets. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not sure if he's going to be able to replicate what he's been doing when he had Alex Smith as quarterback. And like you said, Mahomes, we don't even know how he's doing. I mean, there's been a lot of reports that he's thrown a ton of picks in practice. I mean, that's just practice. I mean, like now you go play against other teams. Who are, I mean. I don't know.
It seems a little sketch to me.
Yeah, I can see his line being more in the line of 2015 where he had 103 targets, 72 receptions, and only 875 yards and 5 touchdowns. That's definitely a possibility with Mahomes as the quarterback. Alex Smith was actually he had a pretty efficient quarterback year. He threw for 4,000 and change in 15 games. So his 16-game pace would have been around, I think it was like 42 something or 43. For Mahomes basically coming in as a rookie and top that, I think it's going to be pretty tough for him to do. I do think Kelce is you got to figure he's a lock for around 100 targets. It doesn't have to be 120, 130. It doesn't have to be, but he's a lock for, a 95, 100, 105 range. So, I've watched the preseason games. They're still running him on outs. They're still running him on screens. They're still moving him in and out of, the slot, the corner. They're moving him like they did last year, so that role didn't change. And there's the narrative too where if Mahomes, does throw some picks, he's trying to target Watkins or Hill down the field and is just, gunslinging it up. He could start to find Kelce as a safety blanket in the middle of the field. So it's kind of like, it comes down to like, Kelce's not, if you take Kelce in the late third, early fourth, he's not going to lose you your league. You're going to have, if you just want that tight end to be set and play and not have to worry about it, Kelce offers that where I don't want to have to worry about picking a different tight end every week. I don't have to worry about the tight end position. And let's just say you don't believe in the running backs, the receivers, he's not going to kill you and lose your league because you take Kelce right there. There is some downside, possibly some regression there. That's a chance, but you got to figure he's one of the 5 tight ends who's going to be a lock for 100 targets.
Yeah, for sure. He's definitely a top 5 tight end. Just kind of something that I remembered off the top of my head real quick. I think it was like maybe like 2 years ago that the Chiefs they didn't throw a single touchdown to a receiver.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
So that just shows you right there how Alex Smith was kind of just targeting running backs and Kelce, in the tight end position. He didn't throw a single touchdown to a wide receiver in 16 games. I find that just.
That's insane.
That's just unfathomable. Yeah, I don't get it.
Especially like now's NFL too.
Yeah. So just like I feel like in my opinion, like like Anthony was saying, if you want to get Kelce, go grab him. You can throw him in there. It's like he's a set it and forget it guy. You don't have to worry about a tight end the whole year. But for me, like I was saying, you got Sammy Watkins now. You gotta think he's gonna get some type of attention, and I don't know. You just don't know with Mahomes. There's too many question marks.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'd prefer to take someone else. I obviously said I'm Gronk or Bonk. But I think at this point I'm trying to get at for people is like if you like Kelce and you're a Mahomes believer, because there's people out there who believe Mahomes is going to be one of the next big quarterbacks. I'm not opposed to taking him at that that round, that 4 turn. As I said, I don't think he's going to lose your league right there. You could take a running back or a receiver that ends up not panning out, and you still Kelce, and yeah, he wasn't Kelce of last year or the year before, but he was still a week to week value.
For sure.
So moving on.
Stefon Diggs, let's go. We talked on him a little bit with the whole Adam Thielen comparison. I don't know if there's anything else you guys want to touch on besides that. Just the fact that he's going later, maybe you'd rather pick him up over Adam Thielen.
Yeah, if I was going to pick between the two, I'd pick Diggs. Like I said, he was hurt a little bit last year, so, he played. He wasn't 100%. Interesting stat on Diggs was he was the number 1 wide receiver in contested catch rate. So his contested catch rate, he was over 60%. There was only one other receiver that was over 60%. That was actually Sterling Shepard. So, we're talking about contested catch rate that's better than DeAndre Hopkins, Antonio Brown, Julio Jones, like all those guys. So, he's one of those guys where, if you throw him the ball, he's probably going to come down with it,
And what contested catch rate means is basically when you have defenders around the ball and they're trying to make a play on the ball. Contested catch rate is, if Mike and Tyler are closing on me, we're jumping for the ball and going for it, I'm snagging out in front of him. And so he's basically been one of the best at that. And that's the reason I personally like him over Thielen is the contested catch rate. But Thielen's actually pretty good at himself too.
Yeah, Thielen ranked top 10 as well, actually, in that.
And then there's just there's a reception perception article I look at, and it grades your wins versus coverage. If I'm facing a cornerback and I beat him off the line and I shake him and get 3 yards of separation, but the quarterback doesn't look at me, I won that route. If I get manned up and the quarterback doesn't throw to me, he won that route. So he basically grades out borderline neck and neck with Antonio Brown's route running. Antonio Brown we know is the best route runner in the game right now.
Yeah.
And Stefon Diggs graded out literally neck and neck with him when it comes to that. And seeing him in the red zone, I think he was like 85% of his red zone passes were caught last year. Week 2 of the preseason, they ran a slat and caught it. And it was a contested catch. If you look at it, he was on him. I just see him for someone who could – I think he could get double-digit touchdowns where I don't think Thielen can. I think he had 8 last year, either 7 or 8, and he did miss some games. I think he has that potential. If his targets, they were probably around 100 last year. If he jumps up to the 130 range in targets, he could get, double-digit touchdowns. He could have 80, 90 receptions, and he could go for, 1,100-plus yards.
Yeah, he had eight touchdowns last year.
And I'm trying to look at his targets.
So if it makes sense, if he's going,
not 95 targets.
I was just gonna say if it makes sense and he's going later in the later rounds, pick him up, I guess. But I don't know.
No, I mean, yeah, I think
I
Diggs is,
like
I think
you
he's
said,
better than Theilin,
better
like
than
Anthony was
Thielen.
saying. And in that first preseason game or two or whatever, Kirk Cousins was targeting him. I mean, they ran like a 1 yard slant to him, you know. So it's like he could turn into Kirk Cousins' go-to guy, you know.
Yeah, I mean, if they're making chemistry in practice and he's winning these routes constantly and he's getting open in the end zone, I just think he offers a higher ceiling than Thielen does, and they're going about the same range, and he costs you less. There might be some drafts where Thielen gets taken first, and some people are basically off Diggs now because they're like, oh, Thielen just went. I don't want to draft Diggs right after that. So you might be able to slip him into the early fourth, beginning of that turn. And that's a spot where I love him because if he's your wide receiver 2, he offers top 12 upside, with the touchdown upside. He's a big play guy too. Yeah, I mean, he makes some big plays. So, if he can stay healthy, that's the one thing with him. If he gets nicked up, he just seems to not be the same when he gets nicked up. So if you could draft him in weeks 1 through 6, he's a wide receiver 5 and he suffers an injury, trade him. Because that's what it seems like with him. But I think he offers, top 7 upside.
Yeah. I mean, he's only 24, so you got to think he's not even in his prime yet. I mean, he'd be kind of just entering his prime, So they have the 10th easiest schedule for wide receivers too. So I mean, that's like I said, that's something I look at. I know that changes, year to year, and as the season goes on. But that's 10th easiest. That means he's not really going against too many top corners in the league. So yeah, I like Diggs.
And they both play the slot too, so it kind of makes both of them almost. I hate to say matchup proof, but it makes them more. They don't have to go against the top corner consistently, so it gives them both of them more chances to have a safe game where even if they're playing tough cornerbacks, they can still get you a 5 for 60 and not kill your team that week.
For sure. Let's move it on. Yes,
Doug Baldwin.
Doug Baldwin at number 29.
Doug Baldwin.
See, for me personally, I've never been a Doug Baldwin fan.
It's from
but
Team,
I know
Team
you.
America.
Oh.
He's like Eric Baldwin.
Oh.
Every time we hear Doug Baldwin, we're like Doug Baldwin.
Doug Baldwin. You're not a fan of Doug Baldwin?
I'm not a big fan of Doug Baldwin, but I know you are a big fan of Doug Baldwin.
Yeah, let me pull up my.
Let me pull up my reasons why he's good.
990 or more yards 3 straight years. So I mean, you're looking at like 1,000 yards for a floor.
I actually low-key like this sore knee injury because it's making him fall lower and lower. And I actually think that this year that Doug Baldwin offers top 5 upside. He's put up multiple touchdowns, double-digit touchdowns before in a season, and he only did that on 103 targets. He hasn't. The thing I like about him this year is he hasn't had that massive target volume season yet. You look at his last 3 seasons: 103, 125, 116. Those aren't the hugest target volume numbers. Now, what's changed? Why I like Doug Baldwin is Paul Richardson's gone on the outside. Jimmy Graham's gone. Their other tight end, I think it was Luke Wilson, gone. Between those 3 players, it's 20 touchdowns that was scored between those 3 players. And I believe it was about 200 and change targets. So there's a lot of targets and touchdowns that need to go around, and Russell Wilson's going to get his. He's going to get his. Whether his numbers dip a little bit, he's going to get his. Their passing volume over the last 3 years has jumped up each season. He plays in the slot. He plays in the outside. I was watching him on film yesterday. He can beat some of the top corners. He's a really good route runner. Last year he went for 991. 1,100 the year before, 1,069. If his target volume jumps up into the 140, which I think is going to this year, just out of necessity. Russell Wilson has to get the ball to someone, and when he's scrambling, making plays with his legs, either he's going to rush for 1,100 yards or he's going to throw the ball somewhere. And I see Doug Baldwin approaching that 140 target range, and he's had touchdowns over the last 3 years, 14, 7, 8. If he gets 140, I think he could be a potential 1,200-plus yard guy with 10-plus touchdowns. And, he's had 94 receptions in a season on 125 targets. So he could be a 90, 1,200, and 10-plus touchdown guy, and that's going to rank in the top, most likely top 5. I just think he has that upside tied to Russell Wilson. The vacated targets, vacated touchdowns.
And I feel like Seattle's defense has lost a lot of players too. So you could just see the offense possibly being on the field a little bit, even a little bit more.
Yeah, that's another point I forgot to touch on. But yeah, that's another reason I have him.
Yeah,
slated high. He's someone where he's going in the 4th now, who I was willing to take at that turn. And now that he's sliding even farther down, I'm just loving the value. If his knee doesn't turn to be something crazy like injury, he's like a wide receiver 14, 15 that has top 5 upside.
I mean, one thing we were saying with like Larry Fitz and T.Y., like there's not really anyone there to, challenge him for targets and whatnot. So, I mean, they did sign Brandon Marshall, but I mean, like you said, there's like a good 200 targets. I mean, Brandon Marshall's not going to get 200 targets. You know what I'm saying?
He's actually on the roster bubble as of right now.
Is he? Oh, I didn't even know that. But I mean, yeah, I guess I'm just not a big Doug Baldwin fan. Like it's like I said, it's your preference sometimes with these players on who you like, and whatnot. So like, I'm just not a big Doug Baldwin guy. Anthony is, and I mean, but he's panned out, and he's been pretty good actually. I was looking at the numbers, and I'm kind of surprised.
Well, it's like if I'm gonna look at the receivers, somewhere in that range, it's like Demaryius Thomas. He's pushing 30. He's a high target volume guy, but he hasn't been that big play guy since Manning left and double-digit touchdown guy. I think the upside is higher at Baldwin, tied to a better quarterback. Tyreek Hill, I mean, he can make splash plays, but he hasn't been a target volume guy. Cooper, I think Cooper is a high upside guy, but he could also be last year's Cooper. You start getting Golden Tate. I just think Doug Baldwin offers. He's been boomer bust, and that's due to like 103 targets, 116, 120, and he's been drafted as like a, low end wide receiver 2. And he's finished inside the top 12 or 13, I believe, the last 3 years. So he kind of gets disrespected because he's a little boomer bust. And I think if his targets shoot up to 140, 135, you're not going to see as much boomer bust because he's going to get more receptions and offer some more safety.
Yeah, I'm trying to look up his wide receiver finishes.
He's not someone that
he's top 13. I know the last 3 years. He hasn't finished outside of that.
Yeah. He's not someone that I'm like super gunning for and trying to get, but if it makes sense, it's farther in the rounds.
All right, so
I'll put him on my team.
I mean, I was taking him at the turn before the injury. Now that he's falling, I'll gladly take him in the 4th round.
Yeah, okay, so the last 3 years he's finished wide receiver 13, wide receiver 10, and wide receiver 8. So, I mean, that's if you were to tell me like, okay, like I don't like Doug Baldwin, but sometimes you gotta like not look at the player as the player and look at him as like numbers. You know, like what points how many points is this player gonna give me? You know what I'm saying? Just totally cut out any emotional ties to
dude, like Jonah Hill, Brad Pitt, Moneyball, dude. We got to look at the numbers, man. Play 100%. It like that.
But you're telling me there's a receiver who finished wide receiver 13, wide receiver 10, wide receiver 8 the last 3 years, and he's going in like the 4th round. I'd be like, oh man, that's money. Like you should
like, sure, let me sign that player. Who is it? Doug Baldwin.
Doug Baldwin. And hypothetically, his volume should go up even more.
Doug Baldwin.
You guys are making some solid points here. I think I might have to draft Doug Baldwin for the first time.
Hey, how are those points? Are those gas points? Are those liquid points?
They're redeemable?
Or are those solid points?
Are they marquee fantasy league points that you don't have enough of?
Wait, what? Marquee points?
Marquee fantasy league points?
Dude, remember when I was in the marquee league?
It seems like it was just yesterday.
Dude, it does.
All right, so we should get on the last guy?
Yeah, let's get on this last guy. We're passing over an hour here. We need to get this freaking last guy on there, Dad. Okay, let's get into Joe Mixon. What do we think, boys?
All right, so Joe Mixon, last year he was... I feel like he was being a little bit overvalued. He was a rookie coming in. Marvin Lewis just tends to hate rookies and not give him the bulk of the workload to start the year. He's did it with Gio, he did it with Jeremy Hill. Just who he is. Hopefully he gets fired this year. But anyways, so Joe Mixon, last year when you look at him, it was a thing of efficiency. He was 3.5 yards per carry with the ball. But when you take a closer look at the numbers, weeks 1 through 9, Joe Mixon was 2.72 yards per carry. Like, that's pretty bad. Weeks 10 through 17, he jumped up to 4.3. And if you take the last 4 weeks of his season, he jumps up to 4.8. So Joe Mixon is one of those patient types of runners who kind of sits behind the line, tries to see what's happening. He's kind of Le'Veon Bell-esque, but not Le'Veon Bell. No, it's Le'Veon Bell. It's true. Just wanted to say. So when you look at that, it kind of tells me that he had a little bit of an adjustment period when, for him to kind of learn the game, learn the speed. I took some deep dive into the numbers last week, and when I looked closer at it, weeks 3 through it's a 10-week sample, 3 through 12, I believe it is. Joe Mixon had 133 carries, and Giovanni Bernard had 22. Joe Mixon had 23 receptions, and Gio Bernard had 16. So basically, in that 10-week sample before he got concussed and before he hurt his ankle, he was in a workhorse role. He also saw 85% of the red zone work, which was third next to, I believe it was Le'Veon Bell and one other person ahead of him.
Yeah, so you were saying for the rookies that Marvin Lewis doesn't really give him the ball, but Mixon still had 208 total touches last year. So, I mean, that was good enough to rank 22nd most in the league. So, if he's going to get more of that, I mean, I guess you're saying it's not unrealistic for him to get around like 240, 250 total touches. That would rank him in the top 15 for most touches. I mean, I think he's pretty safe. RB2 right there. He's got some RB1 upside. He's going to have some RB1 games.
What's his ADP right now? His ADP?
I believe he's going like the early third. He's at the turn, like back end of the second, early third. What I like about him is he's one of those last few running backs outside of those, the top 10 where he could take that jump into the 250 carries, 40 to 50 plus receptions. He comes with a ceiling that he could kind of break out on the scene and be, I don't think he's going to get enough work to be like a top 4, but could he get enough work and enough of a role to where he finishes in the top 8? Yeah, I think he's one of those few running backs that comes with that upside at this point in the draft. The volume's going to be there, whether he's inefficient or efficient. I feel like he's relatively safe based off of volume. If he does show some big plays out of the receiving game and running game, you could be looking at an RB1, he's going in the third round. He could be your third running back, if you draft a certain way, and you have basically 3 RB1s if the way the draft falls.
Yeah, I mean, and also for them, they revamped the offensive line. They drafted a center, I believe it was from Ohio State in the first round. They signed a left tackle, and then
Dallas line coach came in.
Yeah, they have the Cowboys' old offensive line coach, so should be better blocking up front, better holes for him, and I mean. A second year in the league, I mean, he should be more accustomed to things, and he should do better.
Okay, assuming AJ Green and Tyler Eifert are both healthy the entire year.
Eifert.
Tyler. My buddy had his team was it hurts when I fart. Like it hurts when I. Okay, sorry. But anyways, say they're like healthy the whole year. Do you think that will take away or? From him at all?
No, I think it just helps teams not stack the box on him.
They like to run the ball, so I mean they don't really throw the ball as much compared to some other teams, but they rank like in the top 5 or 10 in like most rush attempts. They run the ball like average like 29 times a game. So, I mean Mixon's gonna get at least 18 plus of those.
Yeah, I mean he's a guy
plus a couple catches. I mean
he's gonna have some weeks where he gets you 20 plus carries in the game, gets you 4 plus catches.
Would you rather have him or Jordan Howard?
I'd rather take Mixon.
I'd rather have Jordan Howard. But I mean, he averaged 15 carries last year, or 15 touches a game last year. So I mean, you got to think he's going to do that at least, like as a floor this year, if not more. Okay.
I just think there's a big gap in receiving. Mixon's a legit receiver. Jordan Howard can't catch a volleyball if you throw it at him. A beach volleyball, to be exact.
Okay, so
I think that's where the difference falls
what
for me.
about non-PPR? Would you?
See, non-PPR, then I'd maybe lean Howard. I think he has a little bit more. I don't even know. They both.
I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff out there.
Mixon saw a heavy dose of the goal line work, and I think these offenses are going to be middle to bottom half. I don't think either of them is going to be a top 10 offense.
Right.
So it's basically going to come down to who gets more scoring opportunities. It's a guessing game at that point. I think carries Howard will have a little edge, but receptions Mixon will have a little edge. And receptions, even if it's not PPR, versus rushing, they're still more valuable because you're getting more yardage off of receptions.
For sure.
That's almost a push in a standard to me. But PPR, I lean Mixon.
For sure. Anything else you guys want to put on Mixon before we wrap this up?
Sounds good.
What a guy. Sounds good to me. Thank you. You made it this far. Oh my gosh. You listened to another episode of the Average Bros Fantasy Football Podcast. Way to go. Thank you. Wow. Check you out. You're so smart now. Oh my God. You're not like our roommate who just totally muffed up his draft. Okay. Should have listened to the draft strategy. Episode 2. Check it out. Idiot.
Check it out. Don't draft 4 receivers in a row.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, if you do, don't draft ones
Roel
that
on
you
the
shouldn't.
fifth.
Don't. Yeah. Don't draft Jordan Howard 3rd round, or Jordan Howard.
Dude.
Jesus, fucking Josh Gordon. Jesus Christ, I'm all over the place.
Yes.
But anyways, you've listened to the whole podcast. Appreciate you. Check us out on Instagram, AverageBros_fantasy football. On the Twitter, Facebook, it's all /AverageBrosFFP. Check out the website if Jaundice actually updated it. God damn it, Jaundice, get your shit together.
Come on,
Figure it out,
Jaundice.
you numbnuts. Oh, man. And then that's AverageBrosFantasyFootball.com. If you look at that website and it's not all there, just be patient. Just keep refreshing. Maybe it'll come back. So, but thank you for listening. We are out.
Yeet.
Yeet.